Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we are going to be taking a look at a game called Spin Master, which I just cleared on Monday. So we're going to get into a bunch of things relating to the game, my run, and like the development and all that kind of stuff. So this was developed by Data East for the SNK Neo Geo MVS hardware and released on December 16th, 1993 in North America. Europe saw this game the same year, but Japan wouldn't see it until February 18th, 1994. So just a touch later. So this was actually inspired by another Data East arcade title called Joe and Mac, and there's actually a game on Switch called New Joe and Mac. There might be a subtitle, I don't recall, but it's essentially like two cavemen that go on some adventure or something like that. So I wouldn't mind checking that out now that I know that connection is there. But anyway, so Data East went defunct in 2003, and that's when Gmode purchased the intellectual rights as well as many of the other Data East titles, and then they licensed those globally from what I understand. So as you can see, like one of the first things that, well actually I suppose I'll say how I found out about this game. So Talkerbot on YouTube, also known as Timo, he introduced this game to me. He did a video where he was clearing it, and I had never heard of this game before, and I was just immediately pulled in by the awesome pixel art, just the wicked visuals here. Everything is super bright and colorful. There's just some kind of awesome vibrancy going on here. And so I was just sucked in right away, and when I found out that it was like an Arcade Archives release as well on Switch, it was like an immediate purchase. So I did jump in right away and fiddled around and stuff, but I didn't really commit to the game at that point. This was, I'm not even sure how long ago. Probably 6 or 8 months, who knows. But anyway, so the way it works is it's a 5-stage, actually, you know what, I'll get into the plot first. We'll touch on the stage stuff soon. So there's like this treasure that was hidden a long time ago on this island, and a map was left with the location to like indicate where the treasure was. And then over time the map broke up into 5 pieces, and all those pieces were scattered all over the world. So one piece came into the possession of the main character, Johnny. He wanted to someday go in search of the treasure himself, and then all of a sudden this guy by the name of Dr. DePlane comes to town and steals the map from him and kidnaps his girlfriend Mary. So from there, like the reason he's doing this, this is pretty bonkers, but like I love this kind of stuff from the 90s. So Dr. DePlane wants the treasure so he can buy all of Earth's candy and toys to deprive the children of the world and plunge them into a never-ending cycle of study and healthy, well-balanced meals. It doesn't get much better than that. So Johnny and Tom, his cowboy friend, chase after Dr. DePlane with their yo-yos to rescue Mary and save the world, of course. And I think yo-yos are the best thing for that. So anyway, let's get right up to like what you can all do in the game. So you can obviously jump, you can move back and forth, you can crouch. I don't really do too much of that, but there are a few instances where you will want to, and we'll get to that stuff in the next section actually. But you can also slide. I don't think I ever used that because there was really no reason to. And if there was, it's like maybe I took a hit when I probably could have avoided damage or something. I have no idea. And then of course, interestingly enough, this is like a subtle one that you might not really know about if you're just jumping in and playing, but you can actually charge your primary attack as well and release that, and it will be a different attack depending on what weapon you have. I have the shurikens, and those are by far the most powerful in my opinion. They have the best coverage. They appear to be very, very high damage output, which is great compared to a lot of the other things. But you do have stuff like of course your primary is the like your default is the yo-yo, and then you have like fireballs, large bombs, there's a punching glove sort of thing. There are homing missiles. Those are kind of like tucked away. I think there are like a couple, maybe a few locations where you can pick that up. But I never really used that too much, and I didn't find them to be that great. But yeah, and then you can jump on enemies, and I'm not sure if you can jump on all of their projectiles, but there are certain instances where I would like jump on an arrow and like it would get knocked out of the air. So you can do that kind of stuff, and it's pretty cool. You can, like, when you're jumping on the head of an enemy, here's one. Actually, I'll just cut myself off for a second. This is one of the parts where I will duck just to ensure I don't get hit, because there is that hidden chest there, and there are all sorts of hidden chests all over this game. So it was great learning some of these little tips and tricks and stuff from Timo's video, and it was a cool chat to listen to. But yeah, like big enemies, like the big hulking dudes, those might take a few jumps on their head before they go down, but pretty much everything else will be like one hit, like all the like normal dudes. The mummies are probably like multiple hits too, and things like the big boulders that roll, those will of course be like multiple hits. So one thing that I find really fascinating about this game is that, by the way, this is a no bomb run. When I went into this, I wasn't really sure what kind of thing I wanted to like go with in terms of like how I wanted to clear the game. I think the main thing was just clearing it, and I was prepared to use bombs to just deal with certain things. Like I really wasn't sure what this would all throw at me, but when I started just chipping away at like the run with like a stage practice sort of thing, I did not put much into this game. I found that I more or less just went through the game once with like stage or like save states, just to get a feel for things, and then I actually felt like, wow, this feels pretty straightforward. It's not a punishing game. It's not doesn't feel unfair. Like it just felt like a very simple and straightforward. So I thought to myself, like, I could probably just do this. And I was like on the verge of doing it the first run, but I had used bombs that time, and I had a whole bunch of silly fumbles, and I still have fumbles in this run, but I knew enough about what to do that I banged it out on the second attempt. So that was pretty cool to see. It is certainly a very I get everyone's gonna have like a different like experience level when it comes to arcade games and whatnot, but I do feel this game is pretty easy. There are some sections where you've really got to just slow down and take your time to do things properly, and then other sections like the one we just saw, there are oodles of opportunities to turn it into more of a like a mad dash where you're just like bouncing on heads and just speeding through the section. So the way it works is you have 5 stages. The first level, as we saw, was just a single chunk by itself, and then after that each stage has like 3 sections. I'm pretty sure maybe one has 2, I don't recall exactly, but either way, like everyone after the first one will have multiple sections. And so like here's what I'm talking about. Like just look at the lush green background here and just the color of the water. Like this is prime pixel art. Like this is incredible to me. When I see stuff like this and I think about 1993, it's like, holy smokes, this blows me away. Like stuff like this holds up to me, like in my opinion. Like this is just gorgeous. I could look at this all day. I could have posters of this up on the wall. And I think when it comes to the Neo Geo, I feel like there were, like I'm no expert on it, but I do feel like there were so few games that kind of offered this like this well-rounded of a package. Like we have incredible looking visuals here. We have just a solid adventure. Like when I look at some of the other older arcade games, they don't capture that same excitement or that same spirit. And they're like, this one just has it all. It's just incredible. So it's just, yeah, I could just go on about this for ages. So anyway, that's the boss for that level. Pretty straightforward. That's a really easy one. I'm just making sure I stay hydrated. So this is where the game's difficulty ramps up a little bit, but again, you just need to know what to look for. You have the water that's going to damage you. I think one of the biggest things with this stage is you need to keep an eye out for the fish that kind of like pop up, and then you can see them a little bit, but then when they jump, if you're right in front of them, they're just going to nail you. And so yeah, I think one thing that I missed saying earlier that I was about to say was that before I got on the topic of, yeah, like that hit right there, that was so avoidable. I just had to be aiming diagonally downward, and that would have solved that fish hit. But yeah, the way it works is you don't get to stockpile your bombs. I remember being really intrigued when I heard Timo mention this, and then playing with this in mind. Like, of course, this is a no-bomb run, but when I went into this, I was thinking like, okay, well, if you can't stockpile from level to level, you might as well just use it. And so if you're not going for a no-bomb run, if you jump into this game, then by all means use every bomb you need to in each stage, because they just get tallied for your score at the end of each stage. So like you don't have to hang on to anything. You can just use them. And I think that's a pretty cool approach to see. There's some, yeah, like when I say hidden chests, they're literally all over the place in places you might not expect. Plenty of them you will stumble upon just because you happen to be roaming past a certain section or whatever, like that right there. It's like hard to miss. There's one up here, right, like that one, and it's a bomb. So you get all sorts of things like extra lives. I think there are a total of 2. If there's a third one, I'm not sure where it is. But then you get bombs, which are always great if you're going to use them, that is. And then you get pieces of fruit. I think I'm not sure if it's in this one, but there's an orange, and there's a watermelon, like just different sections will have these fruits tucked away, and that's more or less the way you top up your health. From what I can tell, or what I've researched, there's really no other way, and those fruits are pretty limited. So it's not like you can just grab tons as you go. Just a select few spots will have them. But again, another awesome background. I love the layering we're seeing as we move. This level, it can look and feel intimidating, or like it's going to be really challenging, but once you have the flow down after a few minutes, like it's pretty easy. Like you can kind of just cruise. We got another extend there, which is great. From what I can tell, there are no score extends at all. If there are, I probably didn't score high enough. So there we go, fruit, bomb, fruit. So this one, I think this is where I start getting sloppy. I didn't have as much experience with this level. I kind of just got a very, very light feel for it. Like that hit there, like I didn't realize they could just jump up like that and punch me when I was standing on that ledge. But for the most part, like I know they're going to swarm me here, and I know that the fish start coming up at certain points, but I still took a bunch of silly hits. That said, like I do feel like if I wanted to do a no-miss, it probably wouldn't be that tricky. And I'm not sure, like I could probably do a no-bomb no-miss if I wanted to, or maybe if I want to go for just like a quick no-miss, I would just allow myself the bombs just to ensure nothing silly happens. Because I feel like a lot of the time that is what happens. Just something unexpected catches you. Like that was silly. But we're still doing fine. Like there's no part of me that didn't think just the whole time I was like, okay, I know what to do. I just need to not have too many silly hits, and I've got this for sure. Yeah, the timing can be tricky with those fish, since they come up in 2 different spots. And like that one that just jumped up there too, that one can be tricky. Or like that type of situation can be tricky. Again, like they're like, why was I just standing there taking a hit when you could just back up or drop down earlier? So I suppose you could slide away if you wanted to during that part, but again, like I didn't feel that the slide function was necessary at all. I do take a bunch of hits in this fight. And I think it's just because I got stuck with the bomb. The shuriken is just so much better. Especially because there's this one attack where all these blue blobs, like the boss turns himself into a bunch of tiny versions. I'm not sure if he's going to do it in this one, but oh, that was just so ridiculous. But he sometimes does that. And it almost feels like some of these bombs are just missing too. Whereas the shurikens would just nail so hard into this thing. But yeah, the voices are great. The fact that the guy's face looks like a frog character to me. Like both of them do. Anyway, one more stage. This is where they ramp things up with just tons of enemies and a lot of birds and stuff. This was a fun one to figure out. I wouldn't say it was a challenge. Like this game, to be honest, like this did not feel like a challenging game. Like there was really nothing to puzzle out or sections that were like, oh man, like how am I going to deal with this? Like everything is pretty slow moving for the most part. And so it was just a matter of kind of putting yourself in that situation where you're just not rushing anything. Because as long as you're not rushing, you can just deal with everything that comes your way. Yeah, like that, I knew not to do that, but like, yeah, I just... Normally what I do when there's a bird with a boulder, I jump up before it shows up and I just fire into the air, and then that just happens to hit it, it drops the thing or whatever, and then that's that. Like there, normally I nail the one on the right first at a distance, and then the one on the left, and I never take a hit there, so that one time it was what it was. And I really don't want any other weapons, so I always just wait. And there's likely going to be another bird flying. Yeah, it's easy to have like those boulders smash into you if you're not careful, and it just gets dropped right beside you. I really like this part too with the acid or the sewage water. But yeah, just the overall pacing is very easygoing in this game, and I think that's part of what just makes it feel so approachable. And like whether you're using bombs or not, the game does feel very generous. If you're using bombs, like even more so, because you have tons of bombs to work with, so you can just go crazy. But even though the fruit isn't plentiful like all over the place, it's still enough where you can kind of get an idea of where, okay, you can maybe afford a hit here in this stage, because you know at the start of the next one you're going to be able to top up that one damage you took and you're back to being at full health. Or if you're like struggling on one health, you know you just have to push a little further to get that fruit, and then you're good to kind of just coast a little longer and then use a bomb, and you can you can really stretch the longevity just based on the resources in here. Whereas another non-shmup arcade game, I probably cleared that like 2 years ago, Liquid Kids. That was a wicked one. I feel like that one was far more demanding, far more punishing. But yeah, there's something about Liquid Kids. If you don't know that game, definitely check it out. Like that's the first time I've ever taken a hit just jumping up onto that ledge. But I just nailed those blades. And this is a section I put the least amount of time into this. I would do things so much differently. Like I'm just being silly with this, like just waiting right there, doing like nonsensical stuff for no reason. So as you can see, like none of this is very threatening. It's just that I wasn't sure what I was doing. But it would not take much at all to clean this section up. But of course now we're stuck with the yo-yo, so dealing with certain enemies flying in and whatnot doesn't feel as efficient, but thankfully you can get stuff back pretty quickly. And that right there, it's like, why didn't I just turn around? I would have killed both of them instead of one of them surviving just based on the angle of the shurikens. But I know for next time. And I'm not using, and like why would you do that? Why would you just destroy that and have the guy fall right on you? That makes no sense. Not sure why I did that. And like, yeah, this is just messy. So it is what it is, but we're here at the end already, the final boss. So there are various stages. These are randomized heads. It goes through a whole bunch of different heads. This is the first one. None of these are, overly threatening. As long as you remember to just nail the boulders that come up. Like, there was no reason for me to take that hit there. You just gotta watch out for those beams. Like that, again, you just need to not be going crazy like I am right now. If you just take your time a little more, you can easily do this whole fight without taking a hit. Like, man, what is going on? But for a first clear on the second run with very minimal learning and like no practice involved, really, I'm not complaining. I think it's pretty cool to see and pretty great to showcase this kind of thing, just to show people what's possible with just a bit of knowledge. Like, because I think in ways it's easy to feel as though arcade games are always going to, like, especially retro ones, are always going to be this like 30 or 40 hour experience, and that can be pretty intimidating for a lot of people. But for me anyway, that was not the case with this one, and I'm certainly not opposed to pumping time into games anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So anyway, so we get the chest, but there's this last part with Dr. Deplane, and we want to just put an end to him. So he disconnects and then he drops bombs. So as long as you are just launching that thing up, and again there it's like, why did I wait? Why didn't I just run all the way to the edge? So because I'm not using bombs and I'm one hit away from being toast, I'm being really careful. I'm amazed that blast at the bottom there didn't get me. I was blown away by that. And if I didn't mention it already, I'm not using auto fire. So you, like, even though I'm tapping everything individually, you can still get a pretty awesome speed with the weapons. So yeah, that's that. So the way it works at the end is you save Mary, and then there are 3 locations you can choose from. That's the one I chose, and yeah, that's the game. So I haven't checked out C. I'm not sure if they rotate at all or what, or if they're always the same. But during like one of my save state sessions, I just checked out what A was, and I think that's when you actually get something. But it would be neat to see the others, so that's cool. So anyway, that's Spin Master. I would love to track down more games like this. I feel like they are few and far between, but there's just something so captivating about this kind of adventure, and I think it's really cool, and I'm trusting you enjoyed checking this out, and I appreciate everybody who stuck around until the end, so thank you so much. I'll just let the last 20 seconds or so finish off on their own, so have a stellar one, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time. Take care.